I could use AI to put together a website, and I don't have to
You
spend
don't have to do that
4 days crying
Yeah.
about why this website, why won't they just do, why is it so hard?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I don't have to do that anymore. So I definitely, just like any technology, I think there's good and there's bad.
Back in my bag and I ain't gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.
Welcome to one of our first of hopefully many episodes where we can dive deep into some of the intricacies of being creatives, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and all of the above, of course. Touch on some things like AI and running production teams and, you know, kind of living through our experiences, letting you live through our experiences, you know, give you some of the ups and downs. And, you know, hopefully you can learn a little bit from us, you know?
We've been in production for over 20 years. Wait a minute. Yeah, over 20 years.
Well over 30 now, because I've been in it.
15, 16?
I came in 2005.
Into the business?
Yeah, 2005. Shout out to James Truitt. He's the one who got me one of my first jobs.
Oh, James.
And yeah, I haven't. Hopefully, I haven't let the brother down for introducing me to this industry. This is why I met you in the same industry as well. So yeah, I've been in it 18 years. That's 18.
Wow.
No, 19 years.
So we have been almost in a combined 40.
Yep.
Oof. It's a good thing you get started. Your career gets started at 15.
Bringing this up, I think is really important because of the fact that we're just at a crossroads in our careers. I'm an editor, Shayla. I'm Terrell. This is Shayla. We're just at a crossroads at our career where we want to kind of explore being independent creatives, being independent producers, and being entrepreneurs. I think, hit a ceiling in where this career as working in traditional television or linear television can take us. And, you know, Shayla does have some serious interest in filmmaking, but ultimately she always makes sure I know that she wants to be a storyteller, whatever shape, form that comes into. So, you know, I think hopefully what people can get from listening to us is also the motivation to step out and try something different in your career. You know, we're both in our 40s. Well, I'm in my 40s. She's
whoa! I hope you edit
undisclosed age, but under 30, and
that's right.
And you know, being in my 40s, you know, I want to hopefully motivate people who are also in their 40s to kind of step out and take a risk, try to do something independently, if that is in your DNA, you know, or if you're like unhappy with your job, if you're, you know, sometimes it's just as simple as grabbing a camera, grabbing your phone, and just filming yourself. So hopefully, you know, on this journey, you can kind of get that from us, as well as some tips on how to do it and how to better improve. And also, you know, we want to tap into, you know, company owners too. We want to kind of give y'all some tips and tricks from our purview of how to improve your business and grow if you're at a stagnant stage. So I think that leads us into what we want to talk about today, which is about AI, right? Because I think AI is going to affect independent creatives as well as business owners. So I think this is really good that this is one of the first things that we speak about, because AI is...
Well, it was a big conversation piece and a source of contention in our business last year during the strikes. Mm-hmm. It's what kept the actors out for longer. And also the writers. That was a big part of the writer strike as well. And, you know, Terrell and I have primarily worked in nonfiction television most of our careers, which is documentary reality television. But it affected reality because the last time there was a writer strike, writers were able to actually work in reality television. And I guess the studios were like, I'm not going to give you those options either this year. So it was less content being made in general. And I think the thing about it is that just like people fought against everything that's now in commission in terms of technology, AI is coming, just like everything else is going to be here. It's not going anywhere. So I think we have to be prepared for what how everything is going to look with AI. And that's every industry. So think about what already kind of works with the assistance of some type of machine, and think about, or some type of technology, and think that, yes, AI is going to become a huge part of it. I think, like Terrell talks about all the time, being an editor, if people can figure out a way to tinker with that software enough where it can do what a human does for less money, they're definitely going to figure out a way to do that. They were trying to figure out a way to eliminate as many writers as they could with AI, and it doesn't even currently interpret human emotion the way you would in a script. So they were trying to figure out a way to do that with AI, and they can clone your likeness, or to, I guess, for lack of a better word, or duplicate your likeness as an actor, which is another reason, another issue the actors had, very valid one. So your image could be used in whatever they would like to use it in, and you might not actually receive the royalties or basically the royalties that you would receive every time your image is being used within something. Because I don't know how many people know this, but like if you're an actor and your character has been killed off of a show or in a film, and they even cut to your picture, like a picture of you in a frame or whatever have you within a scene, you get paid for your image actually being seen on screen. Yeah. So that is something else that they were fighting against as well. So it'll be interesting to see what is going to be on the horizon for a lot of industries in terms of, I think it's going to affect the auto industry. I think it's going to, the reason the auto workers were striking, let's get our money now, because in another 6 to 7 years, robots will be able to replace us, or AI, for lack of a better word, will be able to replace us and put cars together, and you won't need us. You won't need humans.
Yeah. That is the dark side of the moon, I assume, right? And, I definitely think that is something to be concerned about, right? Because you've been telling me about, certain industry leaders say that, 90% of the workforce will be...
They're saying like 75 to 85.
75.
Some are saying 90. I don't know. It's interesting. Bill Gates, I think, was saying like 90, which makes me real nervous.
He's also building an underground bunker to live in, so there's that. I mean, but I think for my perspective, I definitely think there should be an urgency to learn how to incorporate AI into whatever your industry is, right? Like as a employee, for example, if you're worried about being replaced, then learn how to use AI to your benefit, right? Be an operator, because at this point,
I agree with you.
Right.
My sister-in-law works in cybersecurity, and one of the things she was saying was she was somewhat averse to, not averse, but I don't think anybody that, especially when you work in you as a human, you never want to think that you can be replaced. Yeah. And that just is in anything, any aspect of your life. But one of the things she brought up a good point is instead of being averse to it, learning the technology and really understanding how it can work for you and for the industry you're in, because then you'll be invaluable because you know how to utilize the technology. And I think that's what we all need to start looking at it as, instead of kind of, one of the things I think we're really good at as humans is kind of like putting off things until it's like really right there in front of us. And I'm a worrier all the time, so I always think about things coming up. And I think the thing about it is that I'm not saying we operate from a place of fear, but operate from a place of realism. And the fact is that if you pay it, it's just paying attention to what's happening around you. You can't even do a Google search now without AI a generated response from a Google search, and that's just the beginning. I think that's people right now tinkering to see how. Yeah. And I don't use it as much as I know I should, but I've played with Chat GPT even in recent, just to see if they could do a podcast script.
Let me interject. How was your entanglement with AI?
My entanglement with AI.
I feel like you were cheating on me with AI.
No, I tried it for two times. I tried it. Remember, I tried to do my Compliment to Coffee script. This was during the writers' strike, and I wrote a script almost 2 years ago, I guess. now, yeah. During the pandemic, like the height of the pandemic, and I wrote 2 scripts, a feature and a short. The short was actually kind of a prequel to the feature. And when all the discussions started happening around AI with the strikes happening, I actually put the concept through ChatGPT, which is right now OpenAI is kind of one of the bigger names in the market, but like everybody, is everybody's doing it. Like parents say, don't say it just because everybody's doing it.
I think OpenAI was probably the most functional and the first to market.
To market
that's why.
And mass market really well with the apps, and so I put it in, and they gave me like a 6-page script, and I mean like
out of what was your original script?
My original one's like 30-some pages, like 35, and I found it interesting because I
felt your script wasn't efficient enough.
And I might be exaggerating. It might have been like 7 to 8, but it still was like, it's interesting. It gave you the basics of like what you asked. Maybe if I gave it even more, it would have definitely maybe given me more. Yeah. But I just wanted to play around just to see. You know what I almost wanted to do? I wanted to test this gangster. Like, let's see if, I just give you like, because people do that all the time when they give us notes on shows we're working on. I want such and such to I want you to hit these beats.
Yep.
Such and such, an executive producer will tell you this. I need her to talk about why she showed up to the event, even though she wasn't invited, why she's upset, why wasn't she invited to the event, and, what's going to be the resolution to that. And that's the thorough version. Yeah. The quick version is, I need you to give me 3 beats, why she pissed off, who she pissed off with, and what, and again, that's still even more thorough than sometimes what we get. But I think I wanted to try to see if it's just giving you those 3 basic things, like give me something about, basically I need a recap on her coming to the event and not being well received. Yeah. That's typically what you get. And that's kind of what I wanted to give AI. Gotcha. Like, such and such was invited to the party, wasn't invited to the party, but she showed up anyway and wasn't well received. I need a recap from her on how she felt about that. And that's what I kind of wanted to see what OpenAI was going to do, or ChatGPT was going to do. It was very basic language, very bare bones. It needed some. I think that's another thing too that scares me about the AI portion of the writing. If this is the direction that for sure studios are starting to go in the next, right now they're saying they're not. That's just they can keep tinkering with the technology. But if they are like going to start going in this direction within the next 3 to 5 years, it's kind of like how you come in and fix somebody else's episode. Yeah. It's like you're going to get handed an AI script and it's going to make this have some emotion. Give me some emotion to this. Yeah. Or make it feel real. Like, you know how they do that with reality? Yeah, make it feel real. Notes, and the true crime thing is interesting. I try to do true crime, and I would try to do a true crime podcast script or outline based on like what we were going to be working on with our true, not so true crime pod. And it was very like, first it said, we don't do violence. And, I don't, like, almost like they were going to tell the FBI on me. Like, that's kind of how the response was.
Like it was going to teach you how to get away with a crime? Yeah.
And I felt some type of way. But then I think the other portion of it, I think when I kind of boiled it down to, like, saying I needed to be a true crime podcast is what I need. Or I think because at first I like described a murder, like to a certain extent, and it was like, we don't do violence. But then I think when I tried to explain like what it was gonna be, then it gave me something. But it was still like a very basic outline. Like there was no language in it. I would still have to do all the writing, and it's like, okay, well, this is what I do now as a producer. So thanks.
Yeah, so it didn't really push you forward, and I'm glad you brought up your script because that leans into what possible usage that AI can have, right? I think trying to get it to do creative tasks is beyond its scope right now.
But if you want to create an environment, like it does good with, we've seen that with like an acquaintance of ours doing pitch decks and kind of, I guess, like business plans or marketing. Like they do
very transactional stuff.
They can do very transactional things. So if it wanted to kind of, the AI opened to the Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury show. Is so it's
once again creative, right?
Animation is still not there, but I think if you just want to do basic, like if the pictures aspect that people do now on social media, like if you're doing, a picture on stock photo or whatever, you're trying to do a campaign for Instagram or something. I think you can do that to a certain extent. I don't know. I haven't played enough with those types of AIs, which I do want to play with the animative aspect of it. But just because that'd be kind of cool to see what it can do, like even do like avatars of ourselves. Yeah. But I still don't think it's to where you're going to be pushing Pixar and Disney animators out their seats anytime soon.
No.
Or, anime animators out of their seats. No, I don't think we're there yet. But I think, this is where we're at. CEOs of corporations now have opportunities to be billionaires. All of them. Because of kind of the reins being taken off of things to a certain extent, where you now can tell them they can make a certain amount of money. And they're gonna make a certain amount of money. You're gonna tell them to save it by paying X amount of people, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I can run this. Instead of paying this ad agency X amount of money to do this, I can hire one person that knows how to do AI ads. Give me exactly what I want. Don't have to pay actors. Don't have to pay because all of those things are union based gigs for very large cinematic commercials. Yeah. So." And for social media campaigns, like the reason they go with influencers is because they can pay them whatever their contract is that they negotiate with them. They have all those images that they can keep using, but also like I don't per post, and the contract runs for a certain amount of time. I think for like 2 to 3 months or whatever. You can do that without paying somebody. You don't think they're gonna try to figure out how to do that?
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's important right now to build, which, this lends itself into building a brand, right? Yeah. Because I think one of the tough things will be going forward, it is putting inputs of, such and such, let's say a travel influencer or whatever, such and such, if I'm a business owner, I want image of, Italy, black male having good time with friends, right? And there you go. Now you have a post and you don't, whatever. But when you have a brand, I definitely think that will be able to combat it, because it's like, well, hey, I have a certain amount of influence over my audience.
Yeah, that's true.
So my value is in me as a creative and not just throwing up anybody's image, right?
Well, I think it's also you should have some type of something you sell in general other than like yourself as well. I think if you can have some type of product line, do you not agree? Or
I don't agree in general.
Everybody shouldn't have a T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I don't agree in general. I think if you have the skill to do it,
right?
If you have the skill to run a business, to have your own line, yes. But and the patience and the empathy and the emotional intelligence.
It's a lot of work.
It's a hell of a lot. I mean, you have a jewelry line. Like, it's a hell of a lot of work. And
I've not put we've taken some time down because of the work it takes, and we do everything handcrafted. Yeah. And because one of the things, and this is something that you and I talk about all the time, that I've just not done a great job with in general, is the marketing aspect of it, and that you don't realize how important that is. Yeah. To anything. Yeah. Anything you're trying. That includes your storytelling. Like, you've got to let people know you're yelling in a vacuum, essentially. And it's the landscape that the vacuum is going over is even bigger now because of social media. Like, it was different back in the day when it was like the gatekeepers of whichever type of storytelling you were trying to do, whether it was television or film. Now it's like, you can literally be a television producer and try to make another move to digitally producing content. But if they can't see that you've done that for brands or for yourself, they will not give you a producing job when you know how to produce content already.
And that's unfortunate. But I think this is what the crux of this conversation could be about, like using AI. And I would like your insight on this. Using AI to create content more efficiently, to build up your portfolio, build up your resume, can also give you more leverage in getting those type of producer jobs. I think, in my opinion, if it's right or wrong, but everybody
Oh,
wants to,
you're saying by creating different things. That's
because everybody wants what's hot. Everybody wants what's next and what's big. Who has a certain level of experience?
Yeah.
And I think our upbringing, doing a production, doing content, meant television shows, meant a team of 100 and XYZ. Now with AI, you can minimize a lot of those tasks, and you can create the content so much faster. And now you can, like I said, you can have a portfolio that can give you so much more leverage when you're trying to build your portfolio. Right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm very sensitive to what you're saying about trying to get producing jobs in digital circuits. But I think, now AI can level the playing field for a lot of people. Like, for example, if you're, because everything in some way, shape, or form is a competition, right? Like, so if you're competing with the biggest producers and the people with the most experience, and you're like, well, it's not fair because they have more resources. Now AI can step in and help and level the playing field for the amount of resources that you have at your fingertips now.
Right.
So now you can do so much better. Like we were talking about doing a true crime podcast, right? And this is for creatives. And me and you are essentially just two people, right? Like, so Dateline has hundreds of employees or whatever, right? So
And
you look at the credits.
Right. You look at the credits.
So what we can
Even
do,
their podcast. Like when he was doing the credits we listened to a
Credits.
Keith Morrison credit roll on his podcast, The Girl in the Blue Mustang, and it was long. We were like,
And now me and you can essentially we can use AI voice, and we can change our voices. We can do multiple characters. We can do, if we need images, we can digitally make simple. It'll be simple and rudimentary images. It won't be like, real life stills, but it can get the essence of the story that you're trying to tell. And we can do it with just two people, and versus, if we would have 10, 15 years ago have to try to do something like that, we would need voice actors, we would need photographers, we would need graphic artists. Now AI can step in and take care of some of those tasks that we're not skilled at.
Right.
So, do you see as much as the negatives that you have mentioned about AI, how do you feel about those possibilities? Because those are still eliminating jobs, but it also is leveling the playing field for producers who have limited resources.
I definitely think, and especially because of how quickly everything's changed after COVID. It's like once we all got kind of pushed, and not that I'm complaining about when you work in post-production and you get to work from home. I'm not complaining about that at all. Mm-hmm. But at the same, because I think we were all pushing for that for years before COVID did that. But it's a little harder. Like people, it's interesting when you're in an office and people walk by and they know you're wrapping out. So it's like, what are you doing next? And, that's kind of how conversations happen about like what you're going to do next. And you don't have that anymore. So now, you might be lost in the shuffle of like, oh, maybe they're working because I haven't heard anything or I haven't seen them or whatever have you. But I think now it's one of those things of like, if people are seeing you working on your own creative projects consistently online, then it's, even if it's small scale stuff that you're just doing, they're doing something. Yeah. And then it's like, well, I wonder if, and you open yourself up to connecting with more people, seeing you do work that might be outside of even the line of scope that they're used to seeing you working. So I do think that's the positive in it. Okay. And look, I may sound like I'm in this discussion. It may sound like I'm completely anti-AI. I'm not really. I think this is how I look at AI in general. I'm not an animator, but I want to do animation type things. And sometimes if you want to do those types of projects, until you can kind of get within that, I guess within that group of people that work in animation, then you just don't get a chance to do an animated project. So the fact that you can now kind of play with things like that, I think that's fun. I do actually like working with, people in terms of creating a project and having actors. But I also know how, when you go in and you say, just for instance, like you look at a sports film and people show you the behind the scenes of a sports film, and the stadiums will have it won't have wherever they're shooting it, it's not a lot of people in the audience because they're CGIing in so much of the crowd. Yeah. That is a lot of money, and you go in and you do a budget as a line producer on the film, or whomever's going in and looking at that budget, they're sitting there and they're like, oh, we don't have money, to pay this person, right? We don't have money to your CGI budget is X, Y, and Z, and you only have this left over, or whatever. And they always tell you to factor that in first, your VFX budget or whatever, have your CGI. And let's be honest, we're so busy wanting to make sure we pay those we want to work with that we don't think about, post does always kind of get lost in the shuffle on every show. Oh, yeah. And every film, too. And I think the thing about it is AI can save you time and money also on that type of, on visual effects. And also on, if you have to character-generated images. So I think if you can save on that, that's the benefits in it. I just don't want things to be taken away from people that are still working really hard to get to a certain place.
Okay.
I think if they're working that hard, it's still going to be a place for them. But I also think that they're not going to look like us. If we're going to be real.
I disagree.
Really?
I absolutely think AI will level the playing field where people of color will have the same opportunities and resources people who have more power and resources in America. I absolutely think so, because for the most part, it's just like social media, right? Like, we have never seen this many millionaires that are black people.
That's true.
And brown people, right? We haven't, because social media has leveled the playing field somewhat, right? You have free apps where you can amplify your voice and you can reach an audience. So where before, guess the only way to reach your audience was through television and radio. And you have to go through, broadcasting. You have to go through the networks. You have to go through X, Y, and Z. You have to have a certain level team. You have to have budget. You have to have, so much just to do one broadcast, right? Like, so people who already had power and influence were able to utilize the media to their advantage. Where now, me and you are two black people who essentially are doing a podcast with little resources. I set up all the cameras and the mics, and it's just me and you and our intellect. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Like, we could get a brand deal. We can do all that, where 20, 30 years ago,
that's true,
to do this setup, to get yourself broadcast, come on, how much? That's why, like, I
agree with you from that standpoint, but also you work, actually earn at a very high level from the field that you've been in to be able to get this equipment. Where I know people do
your phone
podcasts on smaller scale.
I'm just fancy.
Yeah,
but like, it's overkill. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras is a little overkill. But I definitely think that with AI, and now that I brought up social media, I definitely think that it levels the playing field. I think now I can do so much more with that we couldn't do before, right? Like, even graphic images, right? Like, yes, I still think there's a place currently for graphic designers. I don't think they're being replaced, because AI can't take what's in your head.
That's true.
But for people like you and I, who aren't graphic designers, who don't have the resources or the funds to hire one,
you can actually use that. Oh, absolutely. No. But remember, I was saying, like,
absolutely,
all the things in the past, like, we've put together our own websites. We've done that.
Yeah. Now I could use AI to put together a website, and I don't have to spend 4 days crying about why this website, why won't they just do, why is it so hard?
Yeah,
I don't have to do that anymore. So I definitely, just like any technology, I think there's good and there's bad. So every point you said was very plausible on both sides, right? Like, and I guess I'm being realistic that AI is here, right? Like, it's going to be incorporated in our lives to a certain level. So instead of me saying, no, it's not fair, I'm like, man, I better figure out how to use this before we become obsolete, right? Me as an editor, not so much you as a writer and a creative, I think you're going to be protected, because AI can't do what's in your head, right? When you wrote the script, you were like, well, I would never write a script this way. and no one would want to watch a script written this way, right? Like you still need your life experiences. You still need your input, right? Like they say AI isn't sentient. You still need to give it instructions. So,
but I do think it can still eliminate a lot of positions. I think
absolutely.
You're talking about, I don't even think you're going to have like an AP position anymore in post when you're talking about string outs, and I don't even think you're going to have that anymore. I wonder what's going to happen to like assistant editors.
Yeah.
I mean, you already can put in, the system hasn't been finite.
Yeah.
But it's already been a system in place where you can batch cards and they can go in, through a system where you don't have to enter them manually. So just think about if they can perfect that, and then they now already are starting to have, the AI is starting to be able to generate subtitles, and they can do once it gets to the point where it's able to do blurs and images without a lot of, like, you just have to put in commands to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I do think there are going to be certain positions that are just going to be getting eliminated in our business because of that. But again,
absolutely,
you still need boots on the ground to do certain things, and especially if you're talking about below the line on location, what you're going to need to be able to bring that project together.
Yeah.
But I do think if they're talking about cutting corners and post it's amazing to me how that is always everyone's way of cost saving.
Oh yeah.
When it's what brings the whole project together. I'm like, why is that always everyone's way where they want to cut money? Because that's when they come to you with the budgets and post and they crap. I remember working on one series for Bravo, and I won't even say what series it is because then certain people are going to know who the EP is. But they came back from the field and said that they had, it was like 3 producers. I don't even think it was that at that point because one had gotten fired. So it was like me and one producer and our supervising producer and like our editors. And basically, I think we had like 3 or 4 editors, and it was like a long form. The season wasn't that long. That was the thing. I think we each had 2 episodes, I think. And they came back and said that they had so much money left over from on location. They used to decorate the host's office. Did you see all the beautiful things in the background? I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, you
could have tossed it some over here.
Yes. That's a whole different conversation for another day where, misappropriating funds for production, right? And paying editors low wages. But let me tell you, and let me get you back on this one because you said there will be a lot of jobs eliminated, and I think you made a really good point. So let me ask you this question, though, because not question, but let me bring this to your attention. Like you mentioned that there'll be a lot of jobs eliminated, right? Well, let's not forget, radio, there was a lot of people who worked in radio, and then the TV came. So when the invention of television happened, what happened to those people? All these people in the big budgets that radios had, radio broadcasts, Batman, Superman, those were radio shows. And then now you come and you have homeboy Adam West as Batman on television. So what happened to those people, the voice actors and stuff like that? They had to either learn new skills, new talents, or they faded to the back. When you think about vinyl, then cassette tapes, then CDs, then streaming. I know a lot of young people are like, what the hell did this dude just say? Vinyl is the big records that people would DJ on.
I heard somebody, it was a show from the early 2000s talking about how they had Netflix 3 movies. And I was like, and they were talking about getting 3 movies on DVD in mail.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, there are kids now that are like, what?
They don't even know that Netflix was.
Like, you talking about the app?
Was a delivery service. Yeah, was the distribution channel. Distribution channel was actually physically through the mail. Yeah. But think about all those people. So the people who were in vinyl, who do vinyl presses, whatever, at a job. People who did cassette tapes at a job. They all thought they were in the future, and they all got their jobs eliminated. So I do think that instead of us being apprehensive against the future, we should embrace it with curiosity and try to adapt it into our lifestyles. I mean, yes, is it scary? Absolutely, but there is literally nothing we can do about it. So unless you're going to protest every 3 years, every 3, 6, 10, 15 years, writers and producers are going to go out there and protest. You know what I mean? AI? Come on, that's not realistic. At some point, creators are going to have to figure out how to utilize AI to its fullest potential to benefit them in their careers, so they're not replaceable.
I mean, you're right, and we know I think we always knew it was gonna. I don't know. I think it's weird. We knew it was gonna happen, but I think I don't know. I thought I would have been an independent creator by now. I ain't gonna lie. Like making money off of being an independent creator, not still working partially in television.
You were scared that technology has moved faster than you transitioned in your career?
I'm not gonna lie. I really, and not to say that it's a scare. It's just still, I don't know. Yeah, because I'm still not fully comfortable with the technology to use it as well too. Not to say that I'm not going to learn how to use it.
Yeah,
Like,
but nobody is, and I think
Yeah,
that's what it is. You shouldn't be fearful because it's such a new technology. You are literally learning real time, just like everybody else. Even people with millions of dollars don't know how to do it. Some of the richest people are some of the, no offense, dumbest people in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially when it comes to technology, because they get set in their ways because they made money doing something this way. So when something new, they don't think it works. They'll be like, well, I made money this way, so why would I change? So this is your opportunity to step right past them.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
You're right. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going in with confidence that and understanding that we're all learning it at the same time, right? Like, I think for using social media as an example, I personally was very, like, the concept of a follower. I ain't a follower, I'm a leader. So I really was like, I ain't following nobody on social media, right? Or Facebook, right? When Facebook was coming out, 2000, early 2000s, when it was first in my school. That's how old I am. When you had to have a school email to get Facebook. And
oh my gosh, yeah. I didn't even know. I just remember when it became available to the general public. I'm young enough to remember when there wasn't a Facebook. So
Me too.
But like, I'm young enough to remember not having an email account for your school.
Oh, okay. Nah, we had school emails.
That's how.
So it was
like,
.edu.
Email was starting to become a thing when I was, and I remember like having coworkers resistant to sending emails.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say, like, for me, Facebook, I felt like, why do I want to share things that are personal and private to me? Which I still don't, but the whole idea of posting pictures, taking selfies, like, I just never could understand it, could never get into it. And now I look at it, and me and you are creating content. We try our best to post regularly. We try to, like, engage with our audience. We try to educate, teach people. We try to learn. But it took us years, and we could have been so far ahead if we would have took it more serious when it first came, when social media was really first coming out. Now that AI is here, I think we should take it serious. We shouldn't make the same mistakes of not learning it and incorporate it into our professional business life. Right. I get that. Yes, on one hand, what you said is like you felt that you would have been further along as an independent creator or independent producer. Absolutely, I agree. But guess what? AI can now move you faster.
That's true.
Ahead, right? Like, that's the other side. Other side of the coin is like, damn, I thought I would have been further ahead, so I have the resources to incorporate AI at a high level. But now it's like, well, now I can learn AI and catch up to people or surpass people that are my contemporaries or that are maybe like have more resources than me. Now I can play in the same arena as them if I'm creative enough with AI as a tool.
Yeah.
So that's another way to look at it, right? Like, so, but I want to hear what y'all think about AI. I want to hear what the audience has to say. I really am.
And if you do use AI, what do you use it for, and why do you like it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, what are some of the ways? What are some of the ways that?
What are your suggestions to use AI for?
Yeah, and
maybe it's generating a shopping list.
Generating a shopping list. Yeah, I think I'm interested in the ways that it could automate for your business, right? Like, as a content creator, as a
or as a business owner.
As a business owner, right? Like,
especially a small business owner or a solopreneur, like you're starting out, it's just you, and you need your team is. There's a lot of people that have to start that way, and that's probably where AI can come into play as well.
Absolutely, yeah. If it's just you're solopreneur, or you and you're just a partner, like me and Shayla, over here, and you could utilize AI in so many different ways to create graphics for your business, create logos. You can do all types of things, but like there's still things that you can't do, right? Like I think you still would need a media company, probably to partner, collaborate with content creators, like a actual, like someone who can write a script. Like we talked about the shortcomings of AI is it's not its ability not to write a script. You still probably need actors to act out certain things, or if you have to sit down and talk about your business, right? You need to be able to physically do it, right? AI can't do it for you.
Right.
But what AI can do is take your script or take, let's say if you did a corporate video, it can take that information and make it into a blog, and then you can post your blog on LinkedIn or some certain things where it's less creative, but it's more structural and to the point. I think AI can be super beneficial to you in that regard. So that's just some things to think about. But like I said, at the end of the day, me and Shay, we're excited for whatever comes next, right?
Yeah.
All right. She don't sound that excited. But can you sign us off?
Thank you all for listening. We always appreciate you spending your most precious asset with us, which is your time.
Always, and love and peace and hair grease and
Why the hair grease?
Well, I don't know. We don't wear rock hair grease anymore, but all that
We use
oil. I got a foil,
Serum.
oil, and soil. I don't know. Wow. I couldn't think of anything that rhymes. But anyway, thank you for tuning in to The Greatest. We are happy that you spent this quality time with us, and we look forward to hearing some of your feedback on what we discussed today. And hopefully we can, keep this up and give you some new content, something else to chomp on.
Peace.